Statement: the limitation of civil liberties by parties that claim to represent civil liberties. I would like to draw your attention to the following incident that has taken place in Sweden, in recent days. At the end of July, two brothers had driven over their mother and her partner because she was unfaithful, and this led to her death. The Swedish newspaper Expressen has tied this matter to Romani culture and the Romani Kris, a means to settle disputes between two or more parties by a local community. Point 1. As elections are coming up in September, some parties that claim to represent civil liberties are now using this incident in their campaigns. 2. For this reason I shall try and explain things so it may be understood how hate is being spread and how civil liberties are being suppressed as a result of this. To begin with, the Romani Kris never handled the case in question. Furthermore, the Romani Kris is being misrepresented and academics are being misquoted. The Romani Kris has no fixed judges. However, a Romani community finds that if a person has helped solve a dispute at one time, that person then may end up being called again to settle other disputes. Largely, the Romani Kris is a local community that deals with local cultural problems. The Kris handles cultural disputes and even disagreements on verbal contracts. I bring this issue up as it is not in the hands of the state to limit the freedoms of people to meet and solve their disputes, which is being pursued by some so-called liberal parties. And the Kris quite simply is not to handle criminal acts, which are the responsibility of the state. The Romani Kris does not handle cases of violence in particular, such as rape and murder. Even in cases where some would like to do that, the majority of the Romani community has protested such matters openly. As far as Romani culture is concerned, it varies greatly from community to community, from group to group, and from individual to individual. The newspaper Expressen and the so-called liberal parties have used concepts such as a culture of honor and cultural violence to connect this matter to Romani society. Without question, there is a form of culture of honor among some Romani communities, but not cultural violence. As an example, I find it improper to remove my shirt and to show my upper body in public among other Romani people, but when someone else does it, I can do nothing about it except frown upon it. There are no traditional forms of violence that stipulate what action to take as a collective against an individual who goes against Romani norms. This does not say that there are no people that commit spousal abuse, rape, and killing, but they are responsible for their actions and not Romani culture in itself. As far as Romani culture is concerned, it has largely been influenced by the Abrahamic faiths. For example, according to Christian teachings, one should not have sex outside of wedlock, and this is something that the Church endorses.
This is a clear-cut example of the conservative norms within Romani culture, but for it to work in practice is another matter, and quite simply there is no means by which to hinder such, but rather one simply can preach.
In fact, the cleanliness rules that some Roma practice can be found amongst Orthodox Jews and other groups as well. Should these people be targeted as well? Now imagine if a political party was prepared to set a stop to the freedom of religion. These cultural norms that can be found in Romani society can also be found within the Christian faith. Not a hint of evidence has been used to demonstrate that Romani culture has fixed forms to deal with those that choose not to live according to those norms, except namely ostracization. And even in that case, the state should not intervene and force people to accept things as private individuals. It is one thing to discriminate against a person for any reason, but to force people to share the same views that others have is contradictory to the concept of liberty. Naturally, there will always be people that take things into their own hands and will act against the interests of society, because of their personal views and norms, but one should never judge an entire community for that. Have there not been cases where some who claim to be Christian went on to force their values upon others? Similarly, there will be those within the Romani community. To smear an entire community and stop people from gathering to solve their disputes is an extremist means of governmental control. To add on a final note, there are those within the Romani community that frown upon Romani culture. There are those that misinterpret things because they generally do not live within Romani culture. There are those that are extremists, and there are those of us that are like everybody else but practice our culture in our way. As stated earlier, some of these parties that claim to promote liberty are choosing to spread misinformation in order to avoid the addressing of actual problems. The murder carried out by these two young men upon their mother is a prime example of youth violence that needs to be addressed in Sweden. In some neighborhoods, gang-related killings are taking place regularly and even in the same vicinity repeatedly. This would simply mean that gangs are occupying the same places where these acts of violence are carried out. Mayor Rudolph Giuliani cleaned up 42nd Street in NYC not by using the blame game but by putting police on foot patrol in these areas. I have added a number of you to this list, as some of you have been misquoted as academics, politicians, religious actors, and activists. Contact details: Greg Orqueek 46,704,711,189 Vitrari@hotmail.com.